Awesome. No idea how I'm going to back up after that. We had a quote of like, marketers aren't everything. I'm definitely not a creative lead, not a branding lead. I'm very much the growth ops person in the background who like makes things happen. Definitely not everything, so here I am. So here, I'm going to talk about B2B marketing at different company stages. My name is Axel. Rubina, thanks for the introduction. I am very much a B2B SaaS marketer, SaaS referring to software as a service. So I'm very much a tech marketer, a software marketer. A lot of the learnings here are focused on that, but I think there's still some things that you can pick out for the different parts of B2B marketing that you work on yourselves. A little bit about me. I am a girl dad. I have 2 little ones. So I'm flown in from Sydney. Cleo is 4 and Luna is about to turn 3. I'm a very proud girl dad. So I've spent 10 years in B2B marketing. I've worked at companies like Dropbox, Meraki, Cisco, and most recently I was at UpGuard, which is a Hobart headquartered global company. I joined at 30 people and I've left at 200 people, leading up their growth marketing and demand gen function. I'm currently a growth marketing consultant across 3 different seed stage Aussie startups. One's in construction tech, one's in communications tech, the other one in Web3, if you guys know what that is. And like I said, I'm a girl dad to Cleo and Luna. Who am I? I am a growth marketer. I very much focus on impact. It's all about impact for me in terms of all that I do. I don't have any videos here, sadly. It's not going to be as entertaining as Matt's, but it's very much around how do we create impact as a B2B marketer. I am a player coach. I play alongside my team. I very much love leading teams, but I love being in the tools myself, which you'll see as part of my presentation. Some of the tips that I have is about doing stuff yourself. I'm very scrappy. I don't know how many people here are single-person marketers, small team marketers. Resource constraints are tough, but I do think that brings the best out in us. You just got to do something, and it allows you to say no. You go, hey, do these 7 things, and you go, well, it's only me. Which 3 things do you want instead of 7? And the last point is experimental, and I think having an experimental mindset is very important to grow, and it's the best way to grow. On the side, I'm a foodie, I'm a traveler, I'm a Disney parks enthusiast. Ask me about it afterwards if you want to know more. 2 things, I do some stuff on the side, very much along that growth mindset and the experimentational mentality. I run a B2B marketing community on Slack called Generate. Rubina is a very active person in it. There are about 600 B2B marketers in there. It is on Slack. I'll shoot a link at the end, I think, where you can join. It's very much a place for in-house marketers, in-house B2B marketers, specifically in Australia and New Zealand, to just nerd out on marketing, chat about things around like, hey, which SEO agency did you use? Or, hey, has anyone used Bad before? Are they actually any good? Or what tools do you use for, what's a swag agency that you've used that can ship things to Brisbane in 48-hour turnaround? These are the questions that when I started it, I had no one to ask. And I go on Google and I have to spend hours, and now I can ask people like Rubina. I'm going, hey, I need an agency in Adelaide. Who can I go for? The other one that I do that I'm testing out this year is there is no dedicated job board for us marketers, so I'm testing that out. So earlier this year, I bought marketingcareers.com.au, and I'm trying to create a dedicated marketers job board. With Seek has such a bad experience of looking for jobs. I'm trying to create a better one, so check it out if you want to see it. But that's not what my presentation is about. It's very much about how B2B marketing is different across different stages of the company. So 6 parts. Number 1 is how B2B is different, and I think if most of you guys are B2B marketers, you'd know that, but I still want to set the scene. The different stages, why it requires different marketing, the methodology of how I'm splitting the companies today. There's so many ways you can cut companies, but at least we'll stick to one methodology. Talk through the different stages and the different types of marketing that we can do, and all the other things that you will need across all the stages in marketing. So B2B versus B2C. Hands up if you are a B2C marketer in here. Why are you guys here? Perfect. Awesome. So I think B2B marketers have so much to learn from B2C, right? Matt's example of the vodka can thing, I was like, man, that is so awesome. I wish we'd be more experimental, more creative about things like that. There's this perception that B2B marketing has to be boring, has to be corporate. It doesn't really have to be. I think there's a lot of learnings that we can take from each other, but the focus on here is about B2B. And the crux that I want to point out that the difference is the difference in the buying process and the buying cycle. In a B2B process, when you're looking for shoes, you're looking to buy that can of drink, it's human psychology is very much at play. It taps into your emotional psychology around, hey, do I need those pair of shoes? What color do I want? Meanwhile, a B2B buying decision is about, how do I look good in front of my boss? How do I look good at my job? Is buying this tool going to be make me from a 1x marketer to a 2x marketer? Or is buying this piece of software going to make me look like a fool in front of my boss, so let's not buy it? There's an element of risk in mind of going, like when you make a B2B buying decision. And that's what a lot of this thing is going to be about. So my slides aren't going to be as good as Matt's. I drew this on an iPad around how different stages of different companies have different brand awareness stages. Generally, the bigger company you are, you have more brand awareness, at least specifically in the niche that you're in or in the audience that you're in, right? If you think of, this is an example that I have. Who here has heard of Clay? Who here has heard of Ed Sheeran? Great. So this is my example of two different stages of the company. In my space, in the software space, Clay is this new up-and-coming company that if you ask anyone in my exact SaaS space, everyone knows Clay. Clay is I think their headline on their website is they scale personalized outreach with better data enrichment. It basically helps tech companies find out, hey, I'm going to sell to IT people. I'm going to find IT people at the head of IT level in Adelaide who work at companies between 200 and 500. Clay can help pool a list of 500 people exactly like that, give data information, and I can pass it to my sales team to do outreach, cold call, etc. But just from this room, no one knows who Clay is. And they're very much an up-and-comer. I think they started last year. But very much their job here is to tell the story to these B2B marketers in this room of who they are, what they do, and what their value proposition is. Very much an education phase. That's what they have to do at their stage of the company. Everyone's heard of Ed Sheeran. Presumably everyone has Heinz, or have heard of Heinz, or have it in their kitchen. If you're a marketer for Heinz, and I'm not a B2C marketer, what can you do? It's not as if running ads will drive that much impact. You sign deals with Ed Sheeran, right? You have that brand affinity. You need to still grow, and as a marketer, you sign an influencer deal with Ed Sheeran, and you create products like tomato etchup, right? Different approaches. If Clay were to do that with Ed Sheeran, maybe you'll know, but you'll remember Ed Sheeran, but you won't remember the brand because you have no idea what they do. I want to level set a few things. There will be no silver bullets here. There are a lot of learnings that I hope that you can take away with, but there'll be no silver bullets here, and I'm just trying to level set that. When I engage with my clients or have a pitch call, they're like, oh, what's the one thing that we can do? I'm like, there's not really one thing that you can do. There's a few little things that you can do, and hopefully you can take away those few little things today. This is my point around the methodology of different stages of the company that I'll test out with. Airtree is one of the prominent venture capitalists in Australia. Them and Blackbird are the two big ones. Airtree created this grossly simplified life cycle of a small company. Replace the word startup by small company or small business. I think that's a bit better. On the bottom there, it's a different timeline series of what's called funding stages. You can be funded like a seed stage where you get a little bit of money from friends and family. And then you move on to what's called a Series A or a Series B. And then you move on to a growth stage where you really grow. Along the graph is the life cycle of the company, right? At the start, whatever type of company you are, you try to create a product. You have an idea, you create a product, and you create a minimum viable product or an MVP. Once you have that MVP, you work together as a business to test out what's called the value hypothesis. Are people going to get value from your product? Once you've done that, you've proven out value, then you hit what's called PMF or product market fit. The product fits, your product fits the market, it's great, and you're going to test out how do you grow this, how do you tell the world about it and grow it. You hit the next point is a go-to-market fit, where your product fits that audience that you want, fits that go-to-market motion, and it's a matter of you to trying to scale that afterwards and grow that business and tell the world about it. And that's when you hit maturity and you start growing internationally and international expansion. A local example I have is RM Williams, right? Local company, at some point was a small business. They would have hit their minimum viable product. Then it would have found a product market fit locally, nationally. Then they grew nationally, and they go, okay, now it's time to go big, and that's where they're at now at the end. This is a rough way I'm splitting up the stages today across three rough vectors. One around product maturity, like I said. Is it an idea? Is it an MVP? Has it hit product market fit? Has it hit go-to-market fit, or has it mature? Company sizes, and funding stages. This funding stages is very heavy on the tech side of it, so I'm not going to try too much into it, but it very much signals to like what stage you're at as a company. My experience has very much been in SaaS or software as a service. So like I said, a lot of the examples are very much software as a service or in tech, but hopefully you can take some things out of it. Yeah. So I'm going to go into different stages across this graph. I'm going to start at the start, right? Super early on, right? No brand awareness, super small companies. And I'm trying to tell you that I have some experience across all these different stages. My experience here is those 3 seed-stage startups. One in construction tech, one in communications tech, one in Web3. All different problems. They're all fucking chaos. Just in different ways, right? In different ways. But there are things that you can do from a marketing perspective. So these next 2 slides are going to be the format across the different stages that I'm going to use. I'm going to level set their business objectives. So at this early stage as a company, you're trying to innovate, you're trying to experiment, likely not a lot of budget. On the go-to-market, and what I mean by go-to-market is very much sales and marketing, the objective should be to find your first customers, right? You may have a product, you may have some version of a product, but you need to find some early customers and early wins, and you've got to test out some channels. Is it your website? Is it events? Is it word of mouth? Is it newspaper? Is it radio? What is that? On the product side, you very much need to drive and create that working prototype, getting feedback from customers, and validate that product market fit. On the marketing perspective, what's your objective? You've got to find that brand message. And what I mean by brand message is very much as a company, right? I think Matt very much talked about that, like the trucking company, right? What's their brand message as a whole? That's very important, and that's what marketing can lead and drive. But also on a product level, what is your product message? I think I mentioned Clay, which you've never heard about. It's about scaling personalized outreach, right? And that's their product message, right? You want to go outreach, and how do you scale that? Also in terms of go-to-market testing, right? How do you find your markets? What is your market? What is your ICP or ideal customer profile? What is your sales motion? Do you sell through the website online? Do you sell through sales? Or do you sell some other way through like the reseller channel potentially? What is that? And this is the slide of like things that you can do. At this early stage, I find that it's about the free stuff. I told you that I'm very much resource constrained, right? The free stuff is like the best place to start in my opinion. Your website. I talked to someone outside there when talking about websites. I see website as your storefront, right? We may not be in retail or fast-moving consumer goods, but you still need a storefront. Your website's your storefront. Work on that. If you don't have one, build one. If you have one, have a look. I'm like, oh, what can I do to make it better and to tell the story better? Content and SEO. SEO in terms of search engine optimization, it might be a big word that you might not know about, but really, how do you get your content in front of the people who are searching for you on the internet? If you're selling shoes, if you're selling software, when people search for that, are they going to know your product? Are they going to see your product? That's a free way that you can educate your customers. And really the founders, people who started the business, leverage that. There's a book called Founder Brand that I really like, really short book, but really points out that the brand of the company at this early stage is the brand of the founder. You want the founder to be out there selling and telling the story as well. The marketing team. The marketing team is very much going to be the founder, plus maybe another marketer who can do everything, and that's okay, right? Constraint, 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 but make sure like you focus on the things that are important, which are some of these things. At this stage, you want to identify your ideal customer profile. Who is it? Who are you selling to? One of the companies that I'm working for in communications tech, I came in, there's about 8 people, and one of the tasks was like, oh, can you help us figure out who their ideal customer profile is? Said the founder. I'm like, okay, cool. Spoke to their product manager, spoke to their software developer, spoke to their sales team. Everyone said, yeah, I know who the ICP is, and they were all slightly different. And when I brought them into a room and like after a bunch of my interviews, and I go like, hey, this is who I think your ICP is, and like, oh no, that's not it. But then it sparked conversation between them, right? And for a whole company of size of 8, not to know who you're selling to is a bit of a problem. So running that exercise to identify your ICP as a company is really, really important. The next one is like find and chat to your ICP a lot. And what I mean by that is try to find, if you have a hypothesis on who that people is, for example, it's an IT manager, or it's an IT manager, or it's a HR lead, and you go find those people, find more people like them, and talk to them. What's their pain point? What does the day look like? How do they buy software, or how do they buy your hardware or products? And that's a really good way to really understand your ICP. Start to invest in your website. That's a typo there, but really invest in the website, like I mentioned. The next one is on early demand tests. And what I mean by that is there's all these channels that you could be doing. Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, radio. If you have a little bit of budget, start those tests to figure out, I'm like, okay, well, I have $1,000 here. I'm going to test out Google ads. Is that going to really work? Test out a little bit of that. I wouldn't say focus a lot on the paid media at this stage, but try to get a little bit of understanding around, like, is this the right channel that your audience hangs out in? And the last one I point out is like around market creation. If you're in a space that no one knows what you are, no one understands your market, try to educate the market. Create content, talk to your ICP, and create that sort of market at this early stage. The next step that I have is around what I call like an early growth stage, right? We're moving along, you have a little bit of there. My experience here is that I was at a Singaporean startup called Horangi, and they've been acquired by Bitdefender. If you guys don't know who Bitdefender is, they are one of the key sponsors of the Ferrari Formula One team. And my other experience at UpGuard, which is a cybersecurity SaaS company. And what do you do at this stage, right? You got to find your product market fit. Find that winning channel. At UpGuard, that winning channel is content and SEO. If you search for any sort of cybersecurity term in Australia, you will somehow find UpGuard's blog post in it. Because what we did was we just created hundreds and hundreds of blog posts, blanketed the market, right? Whether you're a junior cybersecurity person, a mid-level cybersecurity person, or a senior cybersecurity person, you can't escape UpGuard when you search that stuff on Google, and that's one of the strategies that worked. On the product side of it, you need to further develop your product or service. You need to be able to go, okay, deal with those customer objections around what features are missing, or like what they're trying to achieve in their day, try to work with their product team to fill that gap. And the last point is, like, at this stage, you're hopefully projecting that you're going to grow. Start creating that future growth strategy. Where is the next customer going to come from? Where's the next 10 customers going to come from? Where's the next 50 customers going to come from? On the marketing perspective, you've identified your ICP, hopefully in the previous stage, so you know who those people are. But identify those traits. What are they? Is that a particular job title? Do they hang out in a particular place? Do they like a particular thing? Whatever that is, find out what that is. And when I say by find more, is find more people like them. Where do they hang out, right? One of the things I started was a marketing community, like I said. That's a place that I think is more evolving these days. Private communities are where a lot of people hang out and ask for recommendations for certain things. Find those communities. The next point is like product positioning. This is probably the stage that you want to figure out that product positioning. What is your product, and how do you tighten it? For example, like I said, the example of Clay that I used before, it's very clear that they're about scaling personalized outreach. That's a very clear product, right? You're like, okay, they're not Coca-Cola. They're not Salesforce. That's what that is. And the last one is around experiment to find that winning channel. At UpGuard, it took us a while to figure out that content, website, and SEO was the best play, but we dabbled on a few little things to get there. We spent money on YouTube ads, went nowhere. Spent money on Reddit, went nowhere, and then we actually honed in and doubled down on that content and SEO. Channels. I'm going to continue to hop on about this, but the website, right? It doesn't matter what type of business you are, you need to have some sort of presence, whether you get leads from it or not. Website is a perfect place. Double down on that content aspect of it, and start testing out those paid ads. You should have some budget, hopefully, in your team. Test that out. What does the team look like? So my take on this is very much you need a marketing leader who can lead that function, but you need to have 2 to 3 marketers. The mix depends on the type of business you're in. In SaaS, it's very much you want a product marketer or a content marketer as one. You want a growth ops person, that's usually someone like me, very much focused around like what experiments can I run, what operational excellence do I need to have, but you need a designer or a web person. I'm actually not a fan of using agencies at this stage. Very much, if everything you can do in-house, keep the brand in there, keep the messaging tight, and you have a much more focused output in terms of your product and your business. Things that you can do. Find that solid first channel you can tip money into. The number of conversations, I don't know if you guys have this, conversation with your founders, with your CEOs around, hey, can I have more money, please? And they're like, yes, we can give you more money. What's the ROI that you can give me? I've had multiple conversations with my CFOs around, hey, we have extra 50 grand. If we gave it to you, what's the ROI that I can get? And I go, If you have a solid 1-channel or 2-channel thing, okay, you give me 50 grand, I'll give you 150K in 6 months. Because I know that this is my conversion rate, this is my return on investment. Find that channel that you can go to these internal meetings with much more confidence. Test out that product market fit. Test it out in the market. Hey, is this the right product for this market that you're testing out? Remember how we talked about ICPs? Is this the right product for this ICP? Or do you need to refine that ICP messaging? Building out a marketing and sales funnel. I work very closely with my sales team because I'm very much a marketer in the sales-led growth aspect of it. But if you work together with your sales team to figure out, hey, are these messagings the right messaging? Give that messaging to the sales team so when they're having the conversations with prospective customers, they're equipped and they can create that increased number of revenue across the business. Systems, about CRM and automation, customer relationship management. I'm not going to go too much into that, but you need to have built systems because as you grow, if you don't have that, it's going to be a mess. And the last point I have is about CAC. What I mean by CAC is like customer acquisition cost. It is very important to start thinking like how much is it to acquire that customer? If hypothetically you sell a $5,000, like I work in software, if you sell a $5,000 a year piece of software and it costs you 10 grand to acquire a customer, that business is not going to last for very long unless you have a lot of external investment. Think about that, find out what that is on the customer acquisition cost level, and see how that can play around with your plans around, your marketing plans around acquiring those new customers. The next stage that I have is like the second part of the growth. Very much you have a little bit of money, you can do a little bit more. UpGuard's at this point now, they're about 200 people. They're one of the success stories, the upcoming success stories of the Australian tech scene. If you've heard of Canva, Atlassian, Safety Culture, Culture Amp, UpGuard's probably like in the upcoming next one. So what can you do at this point? What do you need to do? As a business, you need increased market share. People start to know who you are, like I mentioned, but then you need to increase that, explore new markets. Is it new territories? UpGuard's going big in the US from Hobart. What new industries are you targeting? We used to target financial services. We used to target healthcare, but are there other industries that you want to target as well? In terms of the product, you want to develop more features to access new use cases. But importantly, as a business, you want to create a team of specialists. Enough that like it's over when you have like, oh, this person's doing like 3 jobs and 3 jobs. You know, at that stage, that's when you break it up and you have an operations team and you have a procurement team because you can't have everyone doing everything. On a marketing objective perspective, you want to double down on that winning channel. Like I said, on the finding the right channel, if you have this, if you have the winning channel, you know that you can double down on it and you have enough confidence in for that repeatability aspect of it. But on another level, you can start thinking about how do you find that secondary winning channel because you will hit a cap. For UpGuard, that was events. The cybersecurity space is very fragmented in Australia and in the world, and sponsoring events like these, for example, is a way for us to grow. But it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money to put food on the table to hire this amazing space. In the US, like the big cybersecurity events was once called RSA and one's called Black Hat. They cost, no joke, like for the best booth, cost like 1.3 million, right? That's crazy to spend. And I don't love spending on that, but you need to start playing that because that's where your audience is. And the key is be where your audience is at. Start investing in brand. Someone that I follow in my space, his name is Jason Lemkin. He is the founder of EchoSign, who got bought out by Adobe and is now called Adobe Sign. So it's like an e-signature type of product. He runs a community event called SaaStr in the US, and he put out a tweet a couple of years ago where he says, how much you invest in brand depends on the size of the company. When you're super early, spend $0 in brand. Just focus on growing. Focus on not dying. But as you go on to the next one, you're like, okay, spend a little bit money, like spend 10 grand a year on brand. But when you're at the hind stage, right, you go like, okay, what can we do? Like more Google ads and like, please buy tomato ketchup? No, you invest in Ed Sheeran. You go to that $1 million, right? And this is when you can start investing in that brand marketing. And the other point is like, yeah, dabble in events and PR. What are the channels? So to me, I think website It's always there. But this is the point where you can think about conversion rate optimization, right? You should hopefully have a team to help you work through that. If I think of as a marketer as a funnel, right? You have people coming into your website at the top, and you people converting into downloading a form or downloading a piece of content. You want to convert that further into a conversation with sales. And you want to convert that further to actual dollars. And start thinking about them like, hey, what are the conversion rates at each of these stages? And how can we improve? How can we squeeze more out of that lemon? Turn on paid ads, right? We talked about, I think someone asked Matt, how did they tell the world about the Vox campaign? And he said digital ads. This is probably the stage, right? You turn on paid ads, but you don't have to. But I think you will need to because you need to access new audiences. And you double in that PR and events that I mentioned. Marketing team, this is the stage where you build out a marketing organization and you have a structured team of specialists. For any of the marketing leaders in here, I've been in seat of a head of marketing before. This is the point that you need to stop doing and you start leading. You can't have you doing both, like, oh, I'm going to dabble in like Google Ads, but I'm going to lead the team. You need to start hiring and delegating that because you cannot scale if you do everything. What can you do? You dial up paid channels, like I said. Focus on that funnel optimization. That example that I gave around like website, form fills, conversations with sales, close one. Focus on that and see how you can optimize every single stage of that funnel. Finesse that product messaging. What is your product messaging, right? Have a look at that with fresh eyes and get someone who doesn't know your business to read that, and do they really understand what your product is? And this is when you dial up what product marketing is. I'm not going to go too much into product marketing, but we can chat afterwards about it as well. The other two things, double down on winning channels and try to find those new channels. And we're up to the top end of it, right? My experience at the top end, I've worked at Dropbox in the early days when they started in Australia. I've worked at Meraki, which has been acquired by Cisco, and I've worked at Cisco as well. Totally different ballgame, so much resources. Dropbox had an immense amount of web traffic. If anyone remembers the start of Dropbox, I was at university at that time. They ran these campaigns around university, like, hey, complete these tasks and get more storage, and you can compete between universities. And the more that your university completed these challenges, you got more storage. So I was at UNSW in Sydney, and we competed up against like Sydney Uni, Melbourne Uni, and we told our friends, hey, can you just sign up with my link, and like, we'll get more storage together. Like, that's the kind of stuff and the kind of scale they have in terms of their top of the funnel that not everyone can do, right? But at this maturity stage, the business objective should be, how do you accelerate that growth and profitability? Hopefully you've hit cost neutral, hopefully profitability. How can you reach new markets? Product-wise, the product team hopefully is building new products, identifying new demographics for the current existing products as well. And you need to start becoming and remaining the category leader. Think Heinz, right? If you want to start a tomato ketchup sauce, you're up against Heinz. That's what Heinz needs to do. They need to remain the category leader. On the marketing perspective, this is when efficiency, I think, is really, really important, right? Around how do you develop efficient marketing strategies, and you need to maximize profit while you still protect that Heinz sort of market share. And like I said, around the brand aspect of it, you need to start investing in your brand. Run those brand ads, run those billboards, sponsor this Adelaide Oval. On this point, what are the channels? I think you need to start activating those brand campaigns. Account-based marketing from MySpace is very, very important, right? Hey, who are your key accounts? And how do you start marketing to them on a meaningful way? Website's always there. And I'm a big Formula One fan. When you get to the point that you can sponsor Formula One teams, that's when you know you've hit maturity, right? Every single Formula One team right now has so many tech investors on it. Tech companies sponsoring them. Like Red Bull is sponsored by Oracle. McLaren is sponsored by an Australian tech company called Airwallex. They're just there, right? That's just what you do. Your marketing team hopefully is an established function at this point across your team, and you might have an international team. The task here is to lead the team to row in one direction. I was at Cisco, and one of the challenges for their leadership team, because Cisco's like an 80,000 person company, the challenge is like to get the marketing team to work in one direction. And it's really hard at that point to like, okay, we want to focus on this product and that product, and then you have an international team around like, oh no, I want to focus on my own little empire. Your job as a marketing leader is to make sure that they go towards the same direction. Things that you can do. The first one is like the thing that I just always harp on about to some of my colleagues. How do you be a marketing team and not a project management team, just managing a bunch of agencies, right? Your job is not to project manage. Your job is not to optimize budget. Your job is still be a marketer, right? I could hire a bunch of project managers instead of hiring marketers, right? Try to stay a marketing team and stay true to that. Invest in brand marketing, like I said. You want to find and nurture evangelists. And what I mean by that is find people who just love your brand so much. They're happy to post about it on social. They're happy to tell their friends about it. Find who these people are and nurture them and help them on that journey. I think the term user-generated content, use those, right? I think Matt used the example of the Sylvanian families, right? People love that stuff. Like I have 2 girls, they love it. We bought our first little Sylvanian family. They cost so much money, right? But like you find those evangelists in that space, right? And the last one is like you continue to look for growth channels through experimentation. If you've never tried Reddit ads, give that a go. If you've never sponsored a billboard, do that. What do you need at any stage? I think there are 6 things that I put in here. I'm just going to pop it all there. The first one is close alignment with your founders and your investors. Make sure you're all rowing towards the same place. They know what marketing you're doing as a team, right? And you need to be aware of that to have success in your marketing. Clear metrics and KPIs. I didn't really touch on this. This can be a whole topic. But make sure everyone in your immediate marketing team or the company is rowing towards the same direction. Are you trying to increase brand awareness? Are you trying to increase marketing leads? Are you trying to increase closed-on revenue? What is that, and how do we get there? And talk in the same language. Reviewing goals with stakeholders regularly. Hopefully you have a regular business quarterly review, sales meeting. Review your goals regularly to make sure that everyone knows what impact you're bringing. The point around pipeline, CAC, and revenue is very much a growth marketer, tech SaaS speak for me, but focus on the things that matter. Don't talk to your leadership about, oh, hey, we got 3 likes on our Facebook post. No, you want to talk about how that Facebook post drove $10 million in traffic, right? That's what you want to talk about. On the reporting point, you got to show the impact of a marketing team, right? Across different stages, whether you're small, medium, or large, you want to champion your team. And the last point that I have is website. If you had to take one takeaway from today, focus on what matters. I created this image and I sent it to a bunch of marketers. There was a point during the Paris Olympics that the Americans tracked number of medals won versus number of gold medals won. So on the left is what I think it should be. This is I can't remember what exact date. This wasn't the end of it, where China was number 1 because it had 16 gold medals and Australia was 4th with 12 gold medals. But the Americans, with their New York Times, counted total number of medals, and that's how they ranked. And you go, sure, that's how you do. Apparently that's how they've always done it. But you go, to me, that's not the right things to think about, right? Focus on what matters. If hopefully for all of you guys, gold medals are what matter, right? This is how I think a revenue-focused marketer should report on metrics, focus on the right stuff, and not, oh, I brought in engagement, I brought in likes only, and just focus on that, and that's how you report it. No, focus on the things that matter, which is hopefully gold medals. That's it.
Hopefully you guys on the live stream can hear us loud and clear. Were there any questions for Axel? Looks like we're going down the front. Wait, one sec, hold on. It's always dangerous when they leave me to my own devices in this room. Here we go. Try that. There it goes.
Great talk. Just one question. You can't rely on the conversion tracking of ad platforms. What attribution models do you use?
Ooh, so the question is about attribution and what attribution models we use. I think it depends on what company you're in, the type of sales motion that you have. I don't think there's one solved solution for attribution, but you do need to figure out as a business what suits you best. What's worked for me in my experience is you either get everyone in agreement of whether you go with a first touch attribution or whether you go to last touch attribution, and you just get comfortable with whatever that is, right? You can be super fancy. There are a number of extremely sophisticated models and software that come out, some names that come out. If you're in the tech space, one's called Dream Data, one's called Hockey Stack. They're very good at tracking some of these. I'm like, oh, these clicks here versus a click on your website versus interaction on third-party content syndication. Ultimately, my point around that pipeline and revenue focus is the marketing team bringing pipeline. Is the marketing team bringing revenue? Everything else matters, but doesn't matter as much. Like if you're doing all this fancy tracking and if you're not bringing revenue and pipeline, super tough. So my answer to that is figure out one, that you agree as a leadership team with your CEO, with your chief revenue officer, with your sales leader, figure that one out and stick with it. Whether it's first touch, last touch, W shape, U shape, whatever that is, choose one and agree with it.
But then say if you've got two models,
Mm-hmm.
you could be running Google ads, Facebook ads.
Yep.
How do you know which one is actually producing the most revenue? Even though they could be both generating revenue, how do you know which one's generating more revenue in the pipeline?
Yeah. So depending on the agreement of the model, say for example you use first touch, right? You should be able to see from that first touch whether Google or Facebook is driving more, but have that sort of asterisk in the reporting. Let's say for example, all this traffic and revenue is coming from Google, but then you do some next level analysis that you know, hey, Facebook actually drove a lot, just not through this attribution model. Have that awareness and understanding as a marketer, like, yep, this is the reporting that we all agree with, Google's performing. But by the way, we should not reduce our Facebook spend because it's either bringing us new leads or influencing them during the course of the B2B buying cycle. Because we all know it's not as simple as like, oh, I saw shoes on the Iconic and I click buy, and that's it. Like, we could be working in the same company. You're the decision maker, I'm the executor, right? I see a Google ad, you see a Facebook ad. We're both important in the buying journey. And how do you make sure that as a marketer for that brand, you attack both of us in terms of like reach? So yeah, it's nuanced, super nuanced, not solved, I don't think.
Any other questions for Axel? Yeah. Awesome. Wait, one second, sorry. There we go. Sorry, excuse me, Marty.
I've just got a quick question.
Yeah.
Just about when you are experimenting with paid channels and paid digital channels, which would you go to first, for example, for a play or something similar?
So I think I understood the first half of the question. What did you mean by clay or something like that?
Just like for an example, if they're at the new stage,
Oh, yeah.
where would you go?
Yeah. Two parts of that answer. Number one, the question was what, in terms of experimentation, how do you know which channel to test out? Two things. Number one, conviction from you as a marketer and your team around, we think, based on our company collective knowledge, everyone's hanging out on Facebook. Let's try Facebook. That's conviction, super important at an early stage. But the second part of it is, what does your data say? Hopefully all of you guys have some version of a website, have Google Analytics. Check out Google Analytics and the source. Where is the traffic coming from? Is it coming from Bing? Is it coming from Google? Is it coming from Reddit, right? From that, get a bit of a sense of like, okay, there's an abnormal amount of traffic through Reddit. Maybe we should try Reddit ads. So yeah, two parts. Conviction around you knowing your customer, and hopefully if you're a business owner, you kind of know where they hang out, or at least a leadership team, you should. But the second one is like, look at some of the data that you may not have a lot of data, but some data.
Any other questions for Axel? All right, very good. It's kind of fun running the mic around this room.
Getting a 10,000 steps in.
Yeah.
So at the early stage, you start developing in-house team, very basic one. Is there a point in the growth journey where you actually might move away from having in-house development and bring in an agency and bring in all of that expertise rather than continuing on the pathway of developing in-house?
Yep. Also, two parts to that. The first part is very much finance. It depends on your company whether you have all this OPEX or CapEx, right, around capital expenditure, because if you continue hiring people, there's loaded costs with that. You have to pay for superannuation, and there's like leave involved and all that sort of stuff involved. So have a sense around your CapEx and OPEX, but also on the agency versus in-house, what capabilities are important to you as a business that you want to develop in-house, but what can you dial up and down easily through an agency? The example that we have at UpGuard is the split of that strategy was around the content side of it, content and SEO, versus the paid ads. I had the ability to scale one but not the other. I decided to scale the content team in-house because cybersecurity is very nuanced. It's a pretty technical area, and if I hired a content person as an in-house capability, as they grow and learn about the things, all the things, they can start writing more technical stuff. That if I got an agency or I got a freelancer, then like, oh hey, they'll hit a cap, right? Or they say, oh, I'm going to charge more because my expertise is increased. But if I grow that, I'll do that in-house. But on the paid ad side, it's like, no, that's something that I can have an extension of my team of going, okay, well, that stuff they can build. They have more expertise around different types of companies and different types of accounts that I can get that expertise when they build my sort of Google ad set. So around that aspect of it. So around the finance consideration, around longer term, around, hey, if I need someone who's really dialed up, and that I went with the content in-house, paid ads as an agency.